Welcome to The Little Things We Hear Together, where we dive deep into Broadway cast albums to figure out why some hit harder than others. My name is Alex Asp, and my guest today is the host of a musical theater podcast. It's Jeffrey Scott Parsons, but you can call him Jeff. Welcome.
You're right. You can call me Jeff, Alex. Thanks for having me.
I've been very much enjoying listening to your podcast, and I have to say that I am very jealous of your podcast art. I love the stereo marker and the original Podway cast circle, and I really wish I could just steal them.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is due to a husband who has experience in graphic design. And he's like, what should this look like? And I said, the cast album of Can I Get It For You Wholesale? Or I Can Get It For You Wholesale, excuse me.
And you nailed it.
And there it is.
And it's a very fun podcast. If anybody hasn't listened yet, you go check it out. But what are we here to talk about today?
Oh my gosh. Alex, I need you to explain yourself as to why you chose me to discuss this album, because first and foremost, my family tree is about the whitest, most vanilla thing you'll ever see in your life. However, my heart, if you look deep within my heart, I do think there is a bit of Winans. There's some CC and BB, all right? I got some Clark sisters in here. Mm-hmm. Deep within my soul is Broadway inspirational voices. So I don't think you know that about me. However, you did choose me to talk about the Gospel at Colonus.
Yes. So this is one of those shows that most people haven't heard of, myself included, until I started this whole podcast journey. Mm-hmm. But it is part of this season, and I am a completist. So here we are.
I appreciate that.
And
I appreciate your dedication to
to
concept and deliverables. That's the correct answer. And look, I am here because if anyone has listened to my show, I believe all musicals are special. Mm-hmm. And so to do a deep dive into something, you're going to find a lot of just really exciting, cool stuff. And this show deserves it. Spoiler alert, it's pretty inventive, pretty unique. It doesn't sound like any musical you're ever going to listen to. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I thought you would be a good person to do this because, one, you have experience diving into shows and kind of that process of actually exploring and wouldn't feel as lost trying to tackle an unknown. And
sure.
Two, I think there is some degree of connection between the musical traditions of, Southern Baptist gospel sound and the musical traditions of the LDS Church.
Oh, I mean, I think not at all, but I appreciate that.
As far as the appreciation in music, at least, and there's a choral tradition.
There it is, choral tradition, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, the choir departments in Utah high schools are not going to go, and it is definitely because of the Tabernacle Choir.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way, got to send out some love to my fellow Latter-day Saints in Michigan, whose church got shot up over the weekend. That was very upsetting for all of us, and so I'm sending out some mad love. But the truth is that our musical traditions between what you hear in Gospel at Colonus, which is far more apostolic, very like holy roller, feeling the Spirit through your body. You got to get up and dance. And what happens on Sundays at my church are very different. It is one of my great missions as choir director in my local congregation to get people to even join the choir, to allow their voices to be heard. Oh, Jeff, I don't sing well. I'm not asking you to be alphabet. I'm just asking you to come to choir and allow your voice, as bad as it is, to be heard, because it is such a vulnerable thing to lend your voice to praise, to something bigger than yourself. And if you can't sing in a choir badly at church, then when can you?
Right.
That's how I feel. Now, the thing about this show, and in my experience, most apostolic churches, they don't have any problem letting their voices be heard, and everybody can belt higher than any Broadway diva you've ever loved. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where that comes from. I'm going to say the Spirit. I have no evidence. No evidentiary support, as Elwoods would say. But proof is in the pudding. These people can sing with a capital S. It's insane.
Yeah, and for this show, these are all non-Broadway people for the most part. They are actual gospel singers, gospel choirs, with the exception of Morgan Freeman, who is the messenger, the pastor of the church.
I mean, surprise everybody.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman was in this show, a musical. Did you know Morgan Freeman was in a musical before looking at this puppy?
No, I had no idea. And granted, he doesn't sing a whole lot in this show.
He doesn't.
But this would be kind of right on the cusp of when he would be becoming big time. He had some fame beforehand with the Electric Company, but in between the Philadelphia run and the Broadway run is kind of when he had his big break where he was nominated for an Academy Award. So this would have been his turning point in his career. So if they'd waited any longer, they may not have been able to get him to do this.
What was the first thing that he was nominated for?
I believe it was Street Smart, which is not a movie that I am aware of otherwise. And then a couple of years later, he would have Driving Miss Daisy.
Of course.
And so kind of cementing that level of fame.
Mm-hmm. How cool.
Yeah. So this is an interesting show in its history. It premiered in 1983 at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. That production was won the Obie for Best Musical, and then was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize for Drama, losing to Sunday in the Park with George.
Sunday in the Park. So this I didn't know because, I mean, I'm going to be totally transparent here. For my subscribers, the podcast has like bonus episodes and stuff that's on Patreon ! And subscribers come. And we've been doing this whole thing this year on all of the musicals that won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama. And it's a really interesting deep dive because the transparency of the award has changed massively throughout the years. But I couldn't find in the early 80s what shows had been nominated. I felt like that on their website was available much later. So I didn't know that Gospel Colonus had been nominated at that point.
Yeah, I think Wikipedia has the nominees starting in like 82. So this is one of the first couple of years that there seems to be any information. I didn't look to see where Wikipedia had pulled that source. But it's interesting. It was the off-Broadway Brooklyn Academy Music run that was nominated, not the Broadway run later.
Not the Broadway run. Exactly.
Yeah. So it had that, was received very well, then was done in 1985 at the American Music Theater Festival in Philadelphia. And that is what this is a recording of. I believe this is a live recording from what I could tell. I saw that referenced, so it's actually even more impressive that this is all just a live take.
Yeah, it's giving Brooklyn, it's giving live recordings that we don't all honestly get very often.
Yeah, but this was being used as the Broadway cast album because it's pretty much all the same cast. And I actually know that because while I had never heard of this show before starting the prep, since then I have found both albums of this at vinyl, just used record stores around Minneapolis, and it's
is that where
great.
You are? I'm so sorry.
Yes,
I didn't
I'm in
ask
Minneapolis
this beforehand. Okay.
And so
Minneapolis.
In learning more about the show, it had its pre-Broadway run at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis in 1987.
No way!
So the album insert that comes with the vinyl is apparently a later edition, and it lists thanks for all of the choirs that had been in its various stops in DC and at Alliance in Georgia, and it includes the Guthrie Theater in 87. So this was an edition that was produced for Broadway. So they were definitely using this. It's the same artwork on the album as it is on the playbill for Broadway. So even though that was recorded 3 years earlier, I do not feel this is a stretch to include for the season by any means.
No, not at all. And might I add, this is a spoiler for your, scoring system later on, but it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially when compared to other cast albums from the 1980s, which the mixing
and especially for a live album. Yeah.
Yes.
The music is by Bob Telson, who his only other Broadway credit is 1995's Chronicle of a Death Foretold,
which is on my bucket list. I mean, truly, I'm the weirdo that's like, people ask, what do you wish you could go back in time and see? Like, I'm answering Chronicle of a Death Foretold.
Interesting. I don't know a whole lot about it at this point.
Michael John LaCusa co-wrote the book. Graciela Danielle did the staging. It looks weird AF, and I really want to go to the Lincoln Center archives and watch it at some point.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
The lyrics in book are by Lee Brower. I'm not sure how to say
Brewer, I'm guessing.
Brewer. And it's based on Sophocles' Oedipus at Colonus, which is
we're going to have to talk a lot about that because I had to revisit a lot of theater education to make sure I understood what was going on here.
So the album was produced on Elektra Asylum Nonesuch Records, which is not one of the bigger...
Nonesuch. Oh, I forgot about Nonesuch.
Yeah.
This is, okay.
So, while a lot of the albums from this season are RCA Victor, this is one of the ones that is not. The album producer is Michael David et al. There's a whole long list. Audio engineer is David Hewitt. So I think we've kind of already covered I always ask the guest, what is your relationship to this show and album? And I'm guessing not much of one before I
Not
asked
much.
you.
I will say that this show to me was always, oh, that's the show that the opening number from Camp is from.
Yes, I
I don't
didn't
know if that
realize that,
sentence
though.
was correct, but that's really the only connection I had to this show.
Yeah.
How did I get made through my tears?
Oh, that's
Like
so
that,
good.
it's such a great tune. But I definitely heard it in camp before I realized it was
Oh,
from
yeah.
this music.
And can you give, from a very high level, what is this show about?
Oh gosh. Well, what is it about, like, thematically? Is that
Just
where you're?
if you're just tell someone what the show is in a couple sentences, just a
Yeah.
very quick, what is
What I
it?
would literally say is that this show is like going to a Sunday service, but instead of one of the stories from the Bible, they're using one of Sophocles, kind of a retelling of one of Sophocles' plays from a gajillion years ago. And yet it ends up almost doing the same thing, which is talking about redemption and grace and life and death.
Yeah, it is such an interesting concept for a show that on paper sounds absurd, that should never work. Telling a Greek tragedy through a Black Pentecostal church service
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a fever dream. But once you start getting into it, they really marry together quite well, and
No,
it's
like,
fascinating.
and I have this in my notes, but like it wasn't even till the end that I remembered one of the key lyrics from Amazing Grace is "I was blind, but now I see." I'm like, that alone.
Yeah,
I just got chills talking about it. That alone is grounds for me to say that this is a brilliant idea.
yeah. So this is, most people, when you hear the name Oedipus, you think of Oedipus Rex, the
Mm-hmm.
tragedy about the king of Thebes who unwittingly kills his father and marries his mother. That
Just
was,
had the worst year ever.
yes, that was the first of 3 plays that Sophocles wrote in this storyline of these characters. The second
And
of
I'm
which,
and I'm not, if I'm not mistaken, it was the second he wrote chronologically. Like, it actually has a little bit of similarities to the Bible, in which, like, the Bible was not written chronologically.
yeah,
People put the order in later.
yes,
But
it was the
here with
third
Soph
he
with
wrote, but the second
exactly
in the series.
a second in the series.
And then Antigone was
Yeah,
the third.
continue.
So when people heard Oedipus, they probably were expecting a very different story than what they got, because while Oedipus Rex is a fairly well-known play, Oedipus at Colonus is not nearly as well-known, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot less action in it. It's not, doesn't have the intrigue of death and sex and all of the things that, make a very enticing evening of theater with Oedipus Rex. But it
It's
is,
very meditative.
yes, it is much deeper. It is exploring different kinds of themes and ideas, which again marries well with a Pentecostal church service. In the play, Oedipus is blind because at the end of Oedipus Rex, he, I guess depending on which version, he takes the pins and blinds and pokes his eyes out, or somebody else does it to him.
It's
But
not
he
great.
is blind in this play. So in the show, he is sung collectively by the 5 blind boys of Alabama, which is
Literally,
interesting. So they're actual blind
I already
singers,
I've gotten chills twice already today.
and we're just getting started.
Yes. Like, how cool is that? What a
Yeah,
great freaking idea. And also something that you just don't know when you're listening to the cast album, that
right.
this is how it went down.
Yeah, because it's kind of the lead of the group is the primary singing voice, and the others are either harmonizing or singing backup for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize, so the group was founded in 1939, and, has, like many groups, different members
Like
throughout the years.
Menudo.
Yep. And it is still active. They are still a singing group.
Incredible.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
then,
Amazing music these guys making.
yeah. And the whole show is very conceptual. Most of the speaking of Oedipus is Morgan Freeman. And part of that is also just so that they could stage it differently so that he could actually walk around and not injure himself, since he is not blind, unlike the actual blind boys of Alabama. But then
And in the, if I'm, am I correct that he's listed in, like, the playbill as messenger,
yeah,
right?
yeah, which is basically the pastor of the service who is leading things, and he has the opening invocation and prayer, and we kind of come back to him a bit. Part of what's confusing about the show that makes it very artistically satisfying but not as emotionally satisfying from a storytelling perspective for me is you have several instances of more than one actor playing the same character in different contexts, and
Yep.
more than one instance of the reverse where you have one actor playing multiple characters. And so it can be tough to keep track of who is who just from the audio experience alone.
No,
So it really is beneficial to watch the production, which is on YouTube. The American Music Theater Festival performance was filmed and broadcast on
Was it
PBS Great
really?
Performances.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you can see the whole thing as a pro shot with Morgan Freeman and everybody. And it's so much more powerful to see it because of all the things that you miss on the album.
I can only imagine, and this is what I was going to say, is that I fell in love with cast albums as a youngin', sitting on my kitchen counter, because we had one of those big old school, like 5-disc players, right? That took up a good, 2/3 of the kitchen counter. And I would sit up there with the CD booklet, and I would listen to, let's be honest, Phantom of the Opera or Les Mis, and I would follow along with the booklet and look at the pictures and close my eyes and try and picture what was going on. And it's very easy to follow the stories of those cast albums.
Yep.
This is not one of those musicals.
No.
This is a show that you put on and you let it wash over you, and you'll still get the chills. But if you have some sort of visual representation for what's going on, I can only imagine that the album became a way to relive the theatrical live experience over and over again.
Also, there are a lot of, throughout the show, it's pretty amazing how masterfully it's done that the lyrics are actually fairly specific to the story, but using language that makes it feel still very broad and like a typical gospel song. It's kind of like you would think in most instances that we're speaking in metaphors, but in the context of the show, it's just being literal with what they're saying. So it's brilliant how that works so easily to go between the two. And so if you know the story of Oedipus at Colonus, you can pick out how those lyrics match the story, but they are not going to give you the story on their own.
And also sometimes it's hard to understand people because everyone's riffing and singing so big that sometimes I can't even tell what they're singing, but you feel what they're singing. And ultimately that is the important part of the genre of music. Like the lyrics are almost secondary to what is coming through the music.
Yeah. And a lot of times with the choir, which makes sense now, understanding it's a live album, it's often difficult to understand the choir because choirs are very hard to mic effectively.
Hello.
But the soloist most of the time is repeating the lines of the choir. It's not competing with. So you're not missing anything by not understanding the words of the choir because you're still getting the words from the soloist. You're just getting this beautiful full sound in addition to it.
Yeah. And I mean, little secret weapon for you. If you know the title of the song, you know what the song is saying.
Yeah.
They're really, gospel music in general is not going to throw you for like a Sondheim ironic twist. If it says lift me up like a dove, that's what the song's about.
Yep. That's
I
very
want
true.
to be lifted up like a dove. The end.
Yeah. So the whole thing is a very entertaining, like I said, much more entertaining to watch and get the full experience. But it's a tight show. It's an hour and a half. The playbill
My favorite type, 90 no. It's a 90 no.
So yeah, what's interesting though, the playbill on playbill.com lists an intermission.
Does it?
But I don't see how because there's
Where
not
would
an
it
intermission
be?
on the PBS broadcast.
No, and there's no.
Where would
like,
you? Where would you
Where's the
stop the
Act One
action?
finale?
Yeah.
Where would you leave the theater going, oh, I can't wait to see what happens?
Yeah, like there's not even time for like a 1 minute pause with the action. Like some shows, if you're having 4 acts, you'll do 2 acts in Act 1 with a pause or something, but you can't even do that because it just keeps going forward and forward. So I don't know what that was about. I'm curious, but yeah, I think this
maybe
is a
it was
90 now.
maybe it was just a producer call saying we got to sell some stuff. We need people to be able to use the bathroom. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes that it's not a creative.
Yeah, that's true. Should we just get into the tracks of this wonderful album?
Yeah, let's do it. Oh my gosh.
So we start with Live Where You Can, which we're starting off with a great gospel groove to really, if you didn't know what you're getting into, you know right away.
Nope. My first little note that I took is gospel choirs belt everything! !
And we love it.
And we love it.
And
oh my gosh, it's so exciting, so just full of energy and life, and no one's marking. No one's marking.
Not at all. And it's interesting So I talked about this on especially one episode earlier in the season, how repetition in a song can be super effective or it can be lazy. And it often depends on the style of music and the purpose of the music. And there is a lot of repetition in gospel music, but it serves what it needs to. It is providing a base for soloists to riff on. Providing the core message over and over again, unlike late night comic, which, oof, that's a show. There's a lot of repetition there that just feels lazy and not earned, versus this, it is absolutely doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, that's such a great point, Alex, because I think especially in pop music, the repetition comes to help the listener feel at ease, to allow the listener the opportunity to get to know the song, right? So that by the end of the song, they're like, oh, it's going to stick in my head. Gospel music has the repetition to invite you in, right? To help you feel a part of it, because you are now in like this flow with them. And if you didn't receive the message at the first, then we're going to repeat it 4 more times and then you're going to get the message. It's about preaching through song more so than some sort of Jerome Kern structure of how to access your listener, right? It really does come from, like, I think, a spiritual intention of trying to preach to your congregation.
Yeah.
And so, like, in this opening number, when you live where you can, you hear them singing over and over, "Don't go away." And you're like, oh, what an incredible, like, what has happened in Oedipus Rex. And now here he comes with one of his daughters to Colonus. And there's this choir saying, "Don't go away." Kind of essentially, you've had a really bad time. This is a place where you are allowed to be, right? Also, trigger warning, don't like leave this life either. It's not worth it. Stay here. You're wanted. You're needed. Just that welcoming arm.
Yeah, and this is kind of it's serving the purpose of, in a Greek tragedy, it's not uncommon to start off with telling the end, and then it's all about how we're going to get there. So a lot of the lyrics throughout this are about live your life so that when you look back at the end, you're proud of what you've done. You feel satisfied with the life you led. And so live where you can, be happy as you can. Don't take these things for granted.
Don't take it for granted.
Make it happen. And that's the whole point, is that throughout this show, we will get the story of how Oedipus gets to a place where he can look back and be happy with the life that he led, despite all the things that he has done and that he has had happen to him.
Now, when I listened to this show, I listened through it twice. First, just like letting it wash over me, trying not too hard to figure out what was going on. And then the second time really sitting down and trying to listen to the lyrics a little bit more closely and connect it to Oedipus at Colonus. At the end of this song, I have written a blessing. It's almost like someone in the choir offers this blessing to Oedipus. Am I remembering that correctly?
Like the monologue?
There's kind of like this monologue at the end of the song. And it's very generous. And also so connected to Greek tragedies, which are just full, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, full of prophecy, full of choruses predicting the future. And what is that if not like a blessing at church? To have somebody like some preacher, somebody stand up and say, "I bless you that you're going to go out of here and have a great day," Yeah. Like, isn't that essentially the same holding hands with what so much of Greek theater was doing? Anyway, right from the top, you start seeing how the creators of this show found a way for these two seemingly polar opposites to really hold hands.
No mortal eyes but looked on him with envy. Yet in the end, ruin swept over him. Let every man in mankind's frailty, considering his last day.
And it's interesting as well throughout all of this, anything that's not sung is mostly just translated Sophocles. Like there's some massaging of the text, I believe, but largely it's just translation of Oedipus at Colonus. And
That's
so
great.
it has a much more formal feel in the spoken bits, which just kind of, it makes the gospel music feel even more elevated, that it's working in concert with this style of speech. So it's not, oh, we're not doing gospel music because it's familiar and because it's, lowest common denominator. It's, we're doing this because this is an art form that is elevated and meets this material where it is and kind of helps to establish that connection between the two, I think.
Great point.
And I love in this monologue, we get her talking about Oedipus a bit and kind of helping to set more explicitly where we are, explaining he's the king who solved the famous riddle, referring to when he answered the Sphinx's riddle in Oedipus Rex. So we've invited the audience in. Now we're going to make sure that they understand the stage being set for what's going to happen after this. And it is a much more sympathetic approach to Oedipus than he would have gotten throughout Oedipus Rex, especially near the end. Again, setting up that by the end, he's going to be redeemed and you're going to understand and come along for the ride.
Love that.
And let none presume on his good fortune until he finds life at his death, a memory without pain. Amen.
So it's beautiful. It perfectly sets the tone, I think. And then in the play, Oedipus has been wandering in the desert for, I think, 20 years because
It's been a while.
He's been cast out after the debacle of Oedipus Rex. And he and his daughter Antigone are stumbling around and find this city, and they ask where they are. And the answer is the next track, Fair Colonus, or Fair Colonus, as he sings it, which I think it made me go, wait, have I been saying it wrong?
I know, and I probably said it 2 different ways already in this episode. Forgive me, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Fair colonies, land of running horses, where leaves and berries strong, and one dark ivy climbs the bow.
But we get this a cappella, soulful song that is him saying, this is Colonus, Fair Colonus, and describing how it's basically like a paradise.
It really is.
But it's all sung in a minor key and without any accompaniment. And so it's got this kind of spooky feeling to it, which is powerful, I think, this is a beautiful, wonderful, amazing place, but don't get too comfortable right now.
It's also mysterious, right? Land of running horses.
Yeah.
The green ivy, the nightingale that really doesn't shut up. Like all of these different sort of images do create the image of, oh, this place is beautiful, but also mysterious.
Yeah. And it's, on stage, it's just one singer who is singing by himself.
Killing it.
And the entire thing is completely in tune. That's a long bit of time to be a cappella by yourself. And he does not waver. It is not anything other than amazing.
And it's live.
Yeah, and it's live. So it's just, it's beautiful.
It's superhuman. It really does feel like some elevated state of being that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say it's all vocal cords.
Yeah, it's something else.
At daybreak all the year, the clusters of narcissus bloom. Time hollowed garlands for the brows of those great ladies whom we fear.
So he is selling, Colonus says, hey, this is a great place. And Oedipus and Antigone are like, great, well, come on in. And then as they start to walk toward him, the next song immediately starts, stop, do not go on. Like, oh, this is great. No, you're not coming in here. Because
here's where the mysterious part comes.
Yeah.
Because
Oedipus
it's a holy place.
And Oedipus is cursed by the actions of the first play.
This place is lonely. Somebody help me tell them. Stop when First you must kneel down and pray. Well.
So it's like, no, you can't bring that into this holy place here. You can't come in. And it's really powerful, like, again, repetition being used effectively. The background singers are basically just repeating, for the most part, stop, do not go on, over and over, with this very soulful kind of, it's interesting throughout the show, we kind of have gospel often melded with other forms of music.
Blues.
And so
yeah,
in this
a lot
one,
of blues.
yeah, we get a lot of soul kind of mixed in with it. And throughout the song, in the video, Oedipus and Antigone keep slowly marching toward the gates of Colonus. So that's why they keep repeating stop, do not go on, because they need to keep saying it because they're not listening. And it gives the soloist the opportunity to sing above that and have, more to say than just the refrain there. But it's very catchy. This is one that gets stuck in your head pretty easily.
It's great.
Sugar girl says yes. Yes, yes, you may. Stop. Please don't you go on now. Do not go on. What you need to do is that you
It's great. Can we stop just for a second and talk a little bit about, I guess, Black musical theater and where it is in the 1980s and what this show kind of means from a representation sort of place?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you think of the 1970s, which is when, remember, Broadway's a commercial place. So it's the 1970s is when Black musical theater becomes a commercial success. The Wiz, these are shows that are now selling tickets to the point where producers are like, oh, yeah, there's a place for you here on Broadway. And you have a combination of book musicals like The Wiz, like Dreamgirls, like Tap Dance Kid, combined with more just reviews like Ain't Misbehavin', You Be Sophisticated Ladies.
Yeah.
And these are kind of two approaches to Black musical theater that continue from the 70s into the 80s. But by the time we get to the late 80s, we're getting far fewer book musicals. And Gospel at Colonus is one of, it certainly isn't a traditional book musical in any way, but it isn't a review. And when I was stopping to think about it, after this, you have Jelly's Last Jam, and then that's kind of it for a while, because
Bring into noise,
all of
bring to funk.
Well, all of the other things are far more, review-like.
Oh, yeah.
With Black and Blue, or Ain't Nothing But the Blues, or Smokey Joe's Cafe, or even Bring Into Noise, which in its own way is maybe similar to this show, using tap instead of gospel music as a way to explore, themes, but it not necessarily in a traditional book way.
Right.
Anyway, it's interesting where Gospel at Colonus is at this point in that kind of journey of Black musical theater on Broadway. Remind us what else is in this season.
So this season has the big hitters of Into the Woods and Phantom of the Opera.
They're like at the Tony Awards. They're the two that are always
Yeah.
like.
And the
But then there's
Anything
also
Goes is
any
another-
sort of
another big one at the
revival.
Tonys. Yeah. But then
But
we
it-
have Serafina, which is
Well, that's the one I was going to say. Like,
Yeah.
the other kind of outlier in this is Serafina, which, have you already covered it?
Yes.
Have you already recorded your episode?
Yes.
What did you think of that show?
It is fascinating to approach it as, it is not a Western musical. It's coming out of its own tradition,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore does not follow a lot of the templates that we have in our heads of how,
Western
a show can do
American
this
musical
or this
theater.
or this or this, like you said, a review or a book musical or a sung through. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, we're going to do our own thing. And it's very powerful, but very, from a cast album standpoint, hard to get into because you're not getting the visuals and the story that make it so much more than what the music is. The music is helping to
Sure.
tell the story, but the music alone can be often quite vague in what's going on. But the video that you can find of like the bootleg of the tour has so powerful with all the things that are not included on the album, and it is a protest musical, which is not a format that is done very often, but was, when you kind of think about it as that, from that framework of it's trying to do something entirely different, which is bring attention and awareness and try to affect change, it is very effective at doing what it's trying to do.
It's why I wonder, like, where's the Serafina revival? And I don't mean that in like a big commercial revival, but it's interesting that we did the live at City Center Encores before we did Serafina. You know, if we're looking for opportunities to bring marginalized communities or messages that aren't often explored in musical theater, like Serafina has really kind of disappeared, and I don't understand why.
I think after the official end of apartheid, people in the immediate time said, oh, well, they're protesting apartheid and apartheid's over, so we don't need it anymore. And I think that misses...
Everything's solved!
One, the fact that the effects of apartheid continued and continue long after the official policy ended, but also the themes of the show are quite relevant to today in a lot of ways that you're like, oh, this is really uncomfortable, how much this feels applicable right now with authoritarianism and things happening in the world. And so I do think it would be an interesting one to revive in some format, even if it is an encore type of venue, which is probably where it has its best shot due to it was surprisingly a big commercial hit. It ran for 2 years.
It ran for a while.
Yeah, but I don't think the current Broadway audiences would know what to do with it and would not give it the fair shake that it deserves. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not the most optimistic when it comes to Broadway musical.
Of course. Like, once again, it's a commercial thing for sure. But I'm just surprised that I can understand why Gospel of Colonus isn't done, because it's, number one, pretty difficult to organize something like what they did and do it as well as they did.
Yeah, you need very specific talents that are at the top of their game.
Very specific talent, absolutely. So it almost like the fact that it was and it deserves to be remembered as such. I feel like Serafina feels different than that, in that there could be a life for it now. Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense, but I just find all of this very interesting when looking. My show, The Cultural and Emotional Impact of Musical Theater, that you have to contextualize everything within its time and then ask ourselves why that time and not this time and vice versa. I don't always have answers, but it's certainly worth questioning.
Yeah, that was a big part of why I decided to structure this podcast as a season at a time, so that you are viewing all of the shows in the context, at least of that season. You know, obviously that's not taking into account shows from previous seasons that are still running or things that were on Broadway shortly before but closed. But it at least is
their introduction.
To have this discussion of Serafina and Gospel at Colonus, two primarily Black musicals, having sharing the season amongst a lot of other very white, for the most part, shows. And I think that is helpful to have those viewed next to each other, more helpful to bring in the broader context, as you mentioned. But nothing exists in a vacuum. And especially with Broadway being a commercial venture, that is something that's always tough to keep in mind, but important to keep in mind.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Now, going back to the Tony Awards, this musical gets nominated for Best Book of a Musical. And that is because Serafina didn't get nominated for Best Book of a Musical. And so they kind of flip-flopped. Serafina got nominated for Best Score. Gospel of Colonus got nominated for Best Book. Why do you see why that was decided that way?
I have no idea. I'm guessing it was some amount of split Tony voters. I think
they're like, we can't nominate two Black musicians.
Yeah, I think that was not, that was probably explicitly in the minds of some people and subconsciously in the minds of many, many more. So I think that might have split certain votes and just barely got enough to eke out a nomination in book for this and score for Serafina. Yeah. But overall, I think this score is much more successful than Serafina. And I think the book of Serafina is more powerful than the book for this.
Wow.
This is largely...
a hot take. I love to hear it.
This is largely taken from Sophocles. There's a little bit of shaping involved, but the general story is already there. A lot of the dialogue is just translated from Sophocles, so it seems strange.
Well, look, this is the same. This is the same decade where the Tony Awards gave Best Book to Cats. So there are mysteries abound, just like at Colonus, which is a holy place. And thank you for my digression. We can get back to the to the recording if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful to keep all those things at the forefront as we're talking about these tracks. So I appreciate the digression.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm hungry, I'm so tired,
So after this now, they've been stopped, and at the end of the song, there's this very fun gospel riff off between Oedipus and essentially kind of portraying the gatekeeper of Colonus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly if he has a name specifically, but they're just kind of gospel battling, not rap battling, but gospel battling over being able to come in or not.
Don't go, you better get out my way, don't you go, you better leave me alone. Don't go, no, better get on out my way, don't you go, better leave me alone. Do it.
And then the next track is Who Is This Man? Very brief. It's 34 seconds. And when you're listening to it, it doesn't feel like its own track. It just feels like the end of Stop, Do Not Go On.
Absolutely.
So it's strange that they singled it out for its own track, but it's basically just the official declaration straight out of Greek playwriting of who are you? What is your purpose? Why should we let you in? And it's an interest, again, kind of bring that formality of the structure of the Greek tragedy back into this to keep that dichotomy at the forefront for the audience, which, again, like I said before, intellectually very stimulating. For some people, I think it comes off as a little bit distancing in the structure of it. Like you're getting into the music and feeling it, and then the book and the structure just kind of like, no, we're going to make sure that you take a step back for a second.
Yeah. I do want to talk about something that really doesn't have anything to do with the story, which is this crazy ability that the singer has to make several notes at the same time. And do you remember? Okay, so I am on the right podcast to be doing a deep dive here. Starlight Express. Okay. So when Starlight Express first came out, it had their like little cast, like the concept album. And then you didn't get like the full score until the new Starlight Express came out with Reva Rice and everything. So on that original concept recording, there's a song. Is it called Engine of Love? Train of Love? Something of Love. And there's this dude who's singing on it. And he like a train, he's going woo woo.
Yes.
But for whatever sort of physiological reason, he was able to like split his vocal cords in half and create like a second note simultaneously with the note that he's hitting. So it sounds like a train.
Yeah, because it's like
whistle,
like a major second apart or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't know if it's vocal damage or just a gift, but either way, it's absolutely fascinating. And who is this man? The kinds of stuff that this brother's doing reminds me of that. I'm like, I don't know if this is vocal damage or a gift, but I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Who is this man? What is his name? Where does he come from?
He is absolutely commanding the entire stage and getting the bringing the choir in to back him up, whether they want to or not, because he has the power that you're gonna help him. You're gonna accompany him whether you want to. So it's very it's so short, and I kind of wish we had more of that power being demonstrated rather than just 34 seconds. But
he gets the job.
Gets the job done, and at the end, Oedipus admits that he is indeed the accursed.
That he is he.
Yep,
he is him.
And so we are understandably, if you hadn't caught on from before of why they weren't letting him in, from the fact that he's cursed, now he admits it outright. So they bar him from coming in. And then the next track is after his other daughter, Ismene. Is that how you say her name?
I'm guessing. Ismene, something like that.
She arrives at Colonus to find Oedipus and Antigone, and she sings...
And by the way, both of these girls, super loyal, great human beings, right? Yeah. Antigone, infamously maybe one of the most loyal characters in all of theater, right?
Yeah.
And so Antigone's been by her father's side through all of this, hasn't turned her back, and now they by happenstance, I mean, it's a miracle in many ways that they run into sister number 2.
Yeah.
Father, sister, dearest voices, I have found you, and I don't know how.
So, however she arrives, she is so ecstatic to see them that she sings, "How shall I see you through my tears?" Kind of, I'm so excited to see you, but I'm crying because I'm so happy. And so it's just, again, it's somewhat literal, but it feels very metaphorical as well at the same time. And this is the one that is the opener for camp. And it is, so both of the main singers for the daughters, Isabel Monk is the primary singer for Antigone, and Jovetta Steele is the primary singer for Ismene. They just
two of the best
crush
singers
it.
I've ever heard in my life.
And it's interesting too, you mentioned that they are incredibly loyal and they have these amazing voices. Meanwhile, his sons are not, they are kind of
the worst.
Yeah, they're
the worst.
They are awful. And so, and they're also very good singers, but they don't have that same power as the women do.
The clarity, even.
Yeah.
That clarity of tone. It's just absolutely stunning.
How shall I see you through my tears?
Please tell me.
How shall I see you through my tears?
I need to know.
How shall I see you through my tears?
The other thing, the poetry of this lyric just gets me, because Oedipus at this point is revengeful. He's angry about what has happened to him. He's not really looking for. He isn't humbled. They have every right to not let him come in because he has not. He has. What do I want to say?
It's not his fault what happened to him, as he maintained.
It's not his fault, but hasn't humbled
he was not told
him.
These things. Yeah.
It has just made him angry.
Yeah. Not taking the life happens. Sometimes it's not all about your fault.
And so when she's singing, "How shall I see you through my tears?" It's like she's saying, like, I can't see you because of my tears, and he literally can't see because he's blind.
Mm-hmm.
What is blindness? Both of these people can't see, but one is because of the gratitude of seeing her father. The other one is because of all of this mess that happened in the play before. It's really great kind of parallel symbolism going on.
I've been waiting for a sign to ease my troubled mind.
And I'm not sure if it's symbolism that's intended or just personnel, but the main singers for this, it is Ismene, but she's joined by the singers who play her brothers, even though the brothers are not present. But I'm wondering if there's some sort of symbolism there that those singers are the ones that are helping her, kind of backing her up. I couldn't quite come up with anything that I think it is this or is not this, but it may just be that there's only so many people on stage and you don't need to have additional people just for this.
It's also a big swing to just say these actors are not just playing bad guys.
Yeah.
Everybody's playing everybody.
Right. And it's just, this whole song is so catchy and it's just, it gets you in the groove, gets you in the mood. It's so wonderful. And
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs in the whole show.
Oh, yeah. And then we get another dialogue section near the end, which is helpful for kind of catching up on what's been going on with the brothers. Because the one, basically, what I gathered from the kind of looking at Oedipus at Colonus, the brothers agreed to alternate being king of Thebes. Every other year they would switch. But the one at the end of the first year said, no, I'm going to stay king. And so the other one left, found an army, and tried to come back and take over the kingdom. And so one was a usurper, one is a traitor. And basically it's just kind of a, look at how wonderful your daughters are while your sons are just messing everything up.
Brother, the traitor marches on brother, the usurper now.
They will never hold me. Gods, may their fires of ambition never be quenched. Let the last word be mine on this battle.
Geographically, it couldn't be more polar opposite. Colonus has this is a holy place meant for transformation and meditation, and then Thebes is just like war power. And it's interesting where those siblings have staked their ground, right? The brothers aren't trying to take over Colonus. They have no interest. This perfect paradise. They're like, yeah, no, thank you. I want this one over here.
Yeah. And they're both so focused on what they think they deserve, which is not always, Oedipus is worried about what he deserves and he doesn't deserve this bad stuff. That doesn't always matter. It's not the most important thing. Do you really want to be king or do you just not want to be told that you can't have it? And
right.
It's kind of that childish
or you just
pettiness.
don't want him not to be king.
Yeah. No matter what, they're just being children. with their wars, which is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll come back more in the story later as well. But the next track is A Voice Foretold, Prayer.
Ooh.
So this is this is a lot going on in this song.
One of the longest tracks, all a cappella.
Yeah, we're kind of telling of the prophecy, and that, if he is meant to die in Colonus, and it will bless the land for him to do so. And it's very almost mournful, not quite really, but it's very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And the lyrics do rhyme, but it's so slow and stylized that if
You don't
if I'm
notice.
not looking at the lyrics on the page, it's like, yeah, you don't feel it, but it is
So what?
still
Who
there.
cares?
Yeah.
A voice foretold that at my grave, down my God shall come, down my God shall come.
But I do appreciate that they still put the effort into having them rhyme, even if the audience doesn't catch on to that as much. And it's also more complex rhyming scheme than we've had, which is, I'm not sure what to make of that, but it's interesting.
Interesting. I didn't notice that.
And a lot of the lyrics are really a monologue given by Sam Butler Jr. as Oedipus, which, again, confusing because in the past when Oedipus was speaking, it was Morgan Freeman, and when he's singing, it's Sam Butler. But now here he's giving the monologue. So from an album perspective of not seeing it on stage, it can be very confusing. What's going on?
Don't try, you guys.
Yeah.
Just let it wash over. Now this is the blind choir, for lack of a better term, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Who's singing this whole thing?
Yep. Yeah.
They sound incredible.
They do.
What a tradition.
Yeah, it is. I'm just kind of looking at the lyrics here. He's saying,
And after long years in the last country, where I might find a home among the powers of justice, where I might round out my bitter life, conferring benefit on those who receive it, and a curse on those who have driven me away.
he's kind of talking about how he's starting to realize that where he was is maybe not the best place, and all the years that he spent wishing he could go back may have been misplaced desires.
Ooh. Ugh, that's heavy.
Yeah, but we're starting to hear more of the things like there are different portents that will help him to know where he's meant to be, and that he feels that these are leaving him to Colonus. And it's very poetic language, very beautiful to listen to. And with so as he's speaking, we still have the rest of the blind boys from Alabama singing underneath of him.
Pity a man spoke Coccus and his ghost, for Oedipus is not the spirit that he was. Therefore, in the name of God, give me shelter, give me sanctuary.
And so it maintains that feel, that emotional engine driving things forward.
It's one of the reasons this track is one of the reasons why I'm grateful that it's a live album, because you start out, and I mean, this is revealing me probably more than anything. You hear what it's going to be, and then you look at how long the track is, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got another 3 minutes of just this. But the way that the audience responds at the end is such a great indicator of what they have been able to drum up emotionally through the performance.
Yeah.
And so while it is really, really cool, what really cements it is hearing how moved the audience is by the end of it.
Yeah. And it's hard to know how much of that is the choir on stage serving as the audience versus
somebody's
the
moved.
audience in the
Somebody's
theater.
moved.
Yeah. It's definitely very effective.
How did you find all these lyrics? Was it in the vinyl?
Yeah.
There it is.
I couldn't find them online, but I have the insert that has all of the lyrics. It's wonderful.
Your vinyl insert. That's so great. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, I don't know how I found it, but I'll take it.
Yeah, seriously.
So then after this song, Theseus, who's the king of Athens, which Colonus is in the city-state of Athens.
Yes, thank you, Athens.
Yeah, he arrives, and he is being very welcoming to Oedipus, And
Good guy.
And now they're like, oh, well, if the king says it's okay, we can happily bring you in.
And I shall find my resting place.
So we get Never Drive You Away, parentheses, Jubilee. Which
This
I
is
love
like
that.
high energy, hand clapping.
Yeah. Jubilee really is a great description of the whole vibe of the song, where it is super energetic and just joyous the whole time.
Absolutely. This is one of those songs where if you don't know what they're singing, Never Drive You Away. You got it. We're
Yep.
never going to drive you away. That's all you need to know.
Yep, they've been convinced of his kind of reformation or reformation in progress, and they were keeping him out of a desire to keep the holy city from being tainted. It wasn't out of any malice, and now that they are assured that it's okay for him to come in, they're like, oh yeah, well, we're happy to have you. If it's allowed, then we're very excited to welcome you and be generous hosts, which is nice that they weren't holding a grudge from before. They're quick to latch on to the king's blessing and just go with it.
I stood a one all night journey, close of the day. I was hungry and tired. I was beaten by the rain.
Okay, here comes another digression. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
When I listened to this song, I wrote down, is this the type of show A Strange Loop is satirizing?
Ooh.
When like he's making fun of the gospel tradition of, the, what's his bucket? Tyler Perry musicals, right? The Tyler Perry stage musicals that are essentially these family dramas, but with gospel music and somebody finds Jesus. Is this related to that? Is this a predecessor of that? Do you have any ideas? Because it's just a question at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that this is what is being satirized in A Strange Loop, but I could definitely see this being a predecessor or an inspiration for those gospel plays.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of what is being satirized in A Strange Loop is that these gospel plays don't feel terribly authentic, that they are money grabs to take advantage of tropes and people who love this style of music and use that for commercial success.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that idea had to come from somewhere. And so it may have come from shows like this. This may have been one of the more high profile gospel plays. And it would make sense that if you're trying to get a commercial thing, not an artistic vision, that you would overlook the nuance and the important storytelling elements of a show like this, the Gospel at Colonus, and just take the gospel part and run with that instead of what all comes with it and why it resonated with people.
For sure. I trust the intention of this show.
Yeah, it definitely feels
The intention does
real.
feel pure, but we do have to kind of talk about the elephant in the room is that it was written by white guys, right?
Yeah, as
So
most of these
and
were.
and most of exactly. And so it's interesting that then A Strange Loop is talking about shows that aren't necessarily written by white guys, but are cash grabs nonetheless, because ultimately it's commercial theater,
Yeah, but that's
anyway,
where
it's interesting.
yeah, but that's where it's definitely there are certain principles that are true. Like it is better for a show like this about Black voices to be written by Black people who have
Sure.
experiences that live with that. But there are so many things that are happening at the same time that I would argue white men telling a Black story with good intent is better than a Black man telling a story with a cash grab, doesn't give a damn about anybody. But so
Like that's the interesting conversation, I think.
Especially you have to take into context a lot of things of the times, not in a forgiving kind of way, but in a
Contextual.
They still thought that this was an important story to tell, even though it wasn't their own. They wanted to help get it out there because who knows if it would have gotten as much of an audience if it had been written by Black songwriters, book writers, because that's kind of part of what goes into the story of Dreamgirls is that doing the same thing, but based on who is putting it out there you're going to get the attention or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Cadillac car, baby.
Exactly. And I think was it the correct choice? Still, I would say no, but it's much more understandable in the context of what was the reality at the time.
And with a show like this, like I do think the white guys are bringing Sophocles, you know?
Yeah.
like I think that definitely came from their brains. So the fascinating recipe is because of the mixed interests, cultures, backgrounds. And, you know, I think we're better for it.
Yeah. And now we're kind of at a point today where there's a lot of question over where's the line for things like that.
Who
as
has
an
the right to
actor-
tell what story?
Yeah. As an actor, almost inherently, you have to play somebody who is not yourself. Sometimes you'll play basically yourself, but anything, you're having to pretend to be somebody else, something else. And where's the line of what's acceptable to act and what is not? And there are certain things that are definitely okay, certain things that are definitely not okay, but a whole lot of
And then
gray area in the
everything else
middle.
is up for social media to discuss.
Yes. So there, and you know,
times.
the most recent one being, I think, the maybe happy ending debacle,
Yeah,
which I think
exactly.
was a bit overhyped and maybe even just a way to drum up attention before Darren Criss returned ultimately. But
Well, there you go.
yeah, these things are still happening in different formats, different. you
And
know,
the
different
I
issues.
welcome the conversations.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yep, as long as people are actually listening and engaging respectfully and not just screaming into the void.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Well said. All right, let's go back to, are we to Numberless? Numberless are the world's wonders.
So before this, the playbill lists a song, All My Heart's Desire, that is not on the album.
Ooh,
So I'm not
okay.
sure if that was added for Broadway, but they didn't feel it was necessary to redo the album, or if that's just a bit of kind of recitative type stuff that they decided was not, you know, space on an album is limited, and maybe that just wasn't needed for what they were
Yeah.
trying to do. But in that bit, it's when Oedipus rebukes. So Creon is the king of
Thebes.
Theseus. No, Thebes.
Thebes, right? Theseus is the dude from Athens.
Too many similar names.
I know.
And so he comes and he kidnaps Oedipus's daughters because now that he knows that Oedipus is going to bless where he dies, he wants Oedipus to
Oh
come
yeah,
back.
because that's part of, we didn't talk about that little prophecy,
Yeah,
right?
that's part of that whole A Voice Foretold. And he's going to bless wherever he is laid to rest. So now everybody suddenly wants him, whereas before he
Can
couldn't
you
find
die
anybody.
here?
Yeah.
How about here?
And when he said no, Creon kidnaps his daughters to try to force Oedipus to follow them back to Thebes.
Not cool, Creon. Not cool.
And so we're at kind of a tough place. And the next track then is Numberless Are the World's Wonders. And then the follow-up to that is But None as Wonderful as Men. But this is where Theseus promises Oedipus that he will find and return his children. And so is that what they're singing about? I'm not entirely clear here why
Neither am
they're
I.
saying that man is the most wonderful.
Numberless are the world's wonders, but none more wonderful than man.
Well, remember, it's. I honestly don't know because I both of my notes are questions. One is this about the possibility of being a creature that, according to Scripture, has been created in God's image?
Yeah.
Right. The other option is a little bit more cynical, which is, aren't men amazing? Look what we do. And in a way, pointing out there is no reason to trust in man, only God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think either way is an interesting read, but I
Right.
don't have an answer for sure which one it might be.
Yeah. The song itself would point me more toward the former, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because it is. So these are some of the most beautiful harmonies. It is a quartet of the four children. Again, not acting as the children, but just those are the singers who are singing. And
This
it is
so theatrical. It's crazy.
the vocals are amazing. The tight harmonies are amazing. And that doesn't feel like a cynical song to me.
Agreed.
Huge crest bear him high, earth holy and inexhaustible.
I just think it probably is more, even, people are terrible, but some people will still step up for you kind of a thing. Like Theseus.
Don't lose faith in humanity
Yeah.
even when they're kidnapping your children.
Yeah, and
And maybe there is something cool there about the kids being the ones singing it.
Yeah.
Right? You have half of them being really great, half of them not being so great. And yet, don't lose hope. Don't lose faith.
Yeah. This is a bit less gospel-y than most of the album, but it still feels like a certain kind of a church song to me. Like more of
It's more
a
hymn-like.
choral church. Yeah. Like not gospel, but still in that family, which is really beautiful, I think, to have that variety.
It is lovely, and it just feels like poetry when you hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you sometimes when I hear poetry, I'm like, well, that's poetry. I probably didn't get it, but
Yeah. And I
know it was.
there's a bit of the melody where it's all very slow and smooth, and then
He fashions for his shoes, and is the skill that deflects the arrows of snow.
da 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 da. And it's so unexpected, and they do it differently each time, which is fun. Like the one that's slower, and then the one they super rush through it. I don't know how to describe. It just makes you feel a certain way that is kind of like, oh, we're very introspective, but don't get too stuck in that. You have to maintain grounded in what what the story is, and come back to it.
Feels improvisational as well.
Yeah.
That's cool.
In the lake's wind of day, he cannot stay.
After this song is where the Broadway playbill lists an intermission. Really weird spot.
Oh, okay. I can
maybe see that.
It's a terrible way to end Act 1, but what's coming up next is a great way to begin Act 2. So there you go.
So the next song is Lift Me Up Like a Dove. And this is a lot more of a blues type of feel.
Come
And
on, electric bass.
It is just grooving along. It is so much fun. And this
It's
is
so good.
Yeah.
I wish the wind would lift me. Wish the wind would lift me like a dove, like a dove.
This is one where the lyrics on the album are very different from the lyrics in the video, the PBS video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is much more of a storytelling song where you're getting Polynices, I think he's the son that was cast out and had the army to go back. He arrives and asks for Oedipus's blessing in fighting his brother, and Oedipus is not having it and throws him out. And then Theseus returns with the daughters. And that is all part of the song, versus on the album, it's much more just a typical kind of gospel bluesy.
Just a song.
Lift me up, buoy my spirits kind of a thing.
Yep.
But I'm fascinated because the video is from the 85 Philadelphia production, and this was a live album from that production. So at what point, how long were they at the festival to have completely rewritten this one song?
Well, here I said I trust everybody's intentions, and now here I'm going to question the intention, which is, was this album created really just to be a great album? Like how many decisions were made to just make it a great album of music as opposed to some sort of structured storytelling device?
Yeah, especially if they didn't have Broadway in mind in 85. That might have been more of a, people had such a great response to it that they decided later to do that. So I don't know.
I need to go higher, little bit higher, little higher. Lift me up, I need to go higher.
then, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's fairly straightforward. At the, after this song in the video, there's a significant kind of recitative and a kind of call and response section that's not on the album that is really beautiful and fun.
Really? That sounds cool.
Again, I'm sure time being a factor is the large reason that it's not on the album, but it is, it's just very, maybe I want it more because it feels a bit more musical theater-y to have that back and forth kind of talking about, more exposition of the plot through the song, not just reflection through the song.
Yeah, it's actual scene work. And
yeah, but alas, it is not on the album.
That's too bad.
Hey everyone, this is later Alex cutting in to say that after we recorded this episode, I did find out that both this track, Lift Me Up Like a Dove, and the next, Sunlight of No Light, are actually from the studio cast recording the year prior, and I'm not sure why that is, but that is why they do not match what was in the video of the 1985 Philadelphia production. Just to clear that up.
For the child that I love.
Instead, we go into Sunlight of No Light, and this is a very different feel again. This is much more like an 80s sound with the synth.
You got some synth, you got some more poetry. It's one of my favorite tracks, but don't ask me what it means.
Oh, sunlight of no light.
Once you were mine.
Yeah, it's a very melancholy kind of vibe. It's slow and sad feeling. And I think it's mostly Oedipus accepting that he's about to die, as he's, the sunlight of no light, where at the end of his life, where the sun is still shining, but he's not feeling its warmth anymore.
It's cold.
Yeah, and I think that's largely what the song is trying to say. And
That's
it's just
nice.
a longer reflection on that. I don't get much more.
Ooh, that hit me some way.
Yeah.
So when we say you can see the light, right?
Yeah, maybe something along those lines.
And yet your body is cold and approaching death.
Oh.
That sort of
Oh,
paradox.
so the sunlight he's seeing is not actual sunlight. It's just what
Yeah.
how he's describing that light at the end of the tunnel.
It's a light, but it's not from the sun.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, I like that.
I'm going with it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep
All right, that's it. We've decided.
For now, I go to shade my ending days in the dark underworld.
And then after that is eternal sleep, which as Oedipus dies, everyone else is praying for him to have a restful eternity, basically like a
Yep.
funeral.
They bless him to death.
Yeah. But it is a very Motown pop kind of feel to it, which I love.
Great point.
It's a super fun song, which is not what you would expect for a song called Eternal
No.
Sleep, but it really
But
is
also,
fun.
I think that's the Pentecostal apostolic sort of tradition, which is what I mean. I keep doing spoiler alerts. There is no cause to mourn. Not
Yeah.
when God's in charge.
Yeah.
Right.
Let not a friend go down in grief and weariness. Let some just God spare him, some men in more distress.
And I think we'll see that even more explicitly, I think, in the next song, where they really
Yes.
get more of a party kind of vibe. Because
Yes.
it's very emotional, but it's not jubilant, but it's not sorrowful. It's kind of hard to pin down the feeling that is evoked from me. But it's,
Have you ever attended a funeral where this was the music? I have not, but
I don't think so.
I'm not. But I'm also interested because
Yeah.
this is incredible stuff.
Yeah. And it's really
and
cool.
and makes you excited to let. Okay, here's digression. One of the things I've attended a lot of funerals in my life. Yay the complexities of being human. But one of the interesting things about funerals is that there's so much more about the living than the dead, right? And it's a way to mourn, and you have to make space for people to mourn in the way that they are, and sometimes it's by painting this picture of the deceased as the most amazing human that ever lived, and other times it's sad, and then other times it's jubilant. And this group has decided that they are going to use this time of transition, this time in which someone is going beyond the veil, to help us who are left to be excited about living still. And I think that's such a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
Let him sleep well. We pray to the Almighty One that his descent be clear.
I think this is kind of maybe a way of easing into that feeling before going full out in the next song.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right that that is the intention of it. And it's on the video, it really is a big production number with everything.
Really?
So as Oedipus dies, the 5 of them are all sitting around this white piano at the front of the stage, and they all just lay their heads down on the different parts of the piano. But the piano is on the orchestra lift, and so as they're singing about going down, the orchestra lift lowers. So they're literally being lowered into the ground through this song.
Full body chills.
It is so cool. And
That's
like one of the
gorgeous.
lines where they're being lowered is,
I know you had it so hard. Yes, you did. Down, down, down you go. Where he go, no one knows.
which feels like it should be super corny, but really does work in context.
It really
And
does.
It's him, they're kind of near the bottom at that point, but it's very cool.
That's amazing.
Again, a lot of things are so much better to see than to try to glean from the
It
album.
is such a theatrical piece.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's also what the British did so well with some of the mega musicals during this decade, was they were able to be theatrical, but in an almost cinematic way
Hmm.
that allowed you to experience it just through the score. So people could come in contact with the cast album and it led them to the theater.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that people could really enjoy this album and not even know that it was a stage production.
Hmm. And I think it's difficult to have an album that does that, but also still does actually work to move the show forward. Because usually when it's that kind of an album that you just can listen to it and not care that it's a theater album, that usually means that the songs aren't doing much for the story at all.
Sure.
And so it's really cool. This is not that case. This is actually, like I said, it's literal in the moment in the show, but it feels allegorical outside of that, and it still feels very relatable.
Would you feel that way if you hadn't seen the Pro Shot?
I was still enjoying it. I think I watched the Pro Shot a couple days ago.
Okay.
And so I was still enjoying the album before that, but it was harder to follow and harder to feel invested.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that also is just I was coming at it as a cast album with
Sure.
certain expectations that come along with that, no matter how much I tried
course.
to suppress them.
Mhm.
But this has definitely been a surprise and enjoyment for the season to have this album.
Love it.
Let him sleep well.
The next track now is Lift Him Up. So after we just talked
Yes.
about
Okay. So
raising-
this
lifting
is
down,
this is the big one.
this is the big one. And we kind of back off for the start. We have this beautiful section with the choir and Carolyn Johnson White as the soloist is absurd.
And
That
an
note.
angel.
That note that she hits and holds is so high and so perfectly in tune.
You guys,
Jeez.
you just have to hear it to believe it.
Yeah. And so it's kind of hard to really nail down the vibe of the first part of the song when she's singing. But then once she hits that high note, the party springs to life. And it's
Yeah.
a very different feel for the second half. It's super, it's definitely that celebration of life, not wallowing in their own loss.
Yeah. And it's a very well known, I think, pattern in gospel music. Even if you watch The Preacher's Wife, right, where Whitney gets up and kind of sings the slow ballad version of it,
Yep.
and then that gives way to something even more jubilant, which is it's the same song, even maybe sometimes the same idea, but with a different approach that allows the congregation to connect with it in a different way or participate in a different way. It gets you up off your feet. Now you're clapping along. Now you're, feeling the Spirit move through you in that very Pentecostal way.
Yeah, definitely. It is a lot of fun, and it would be very easy, I think, to end the show here with this happy note, but we don't.
We
Instead,
don't.
We have one more track, Now Let the Weeping Cease, hymn, and it is definitely structured as a classic hymn. The cadence of it, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but everything about it just feels like, oh, yep, this could easily have been something that I grew up with in church.
Now let the weeping cease. Let no one mourn again.
Now, traditionally, I would assume that this is where you pass the basket, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't be passing the basket while everybody's dancing. So you get everybody dancing, then everybody sits down, then you pass the basket because everybody has had their meal, as it were, and can give back. So this feels to me like a pass the basket song, but it really is, once again, going to the true intention of it. No need to mourn again, right? Look at what to quote The Color Purple, look what God has done, right? We started this man who had a worse life than most of us could even imagine. And now he has passed on in a way that has blessed the land where he was.
Mm-hmm.
For the love of God will bring you peace. There is no end.
So on the album, it's confusing in a way to go from this big party and then say, now let the weeping cease. It's like, well, were they weeping? I thought they were just celebrating.
But I don't think the weeping they're talking about has anything to do with Oedipus.
Yeah. And I think to kind of bridge it a little bit, I believe the daughters are still crying a little bit through that. Like while everybody else is partying around them and celebrating, they're kind of trying, but I think they're still a little bit emotional. And so it's operating somewhat as to them, even like, it's okay to have those feelings. Because I think in the play, they were both saying like they wanted to be buried with him. They were so distraught when he died.
Oh, interesting.
And so
yeah.
I think part of this is to them, but also to the more general, us, when somebody passes away, especially if you believe that they are in a better place, then why be sad?
Why be sad?
What is there to, yeah, you can be sad that you don't have them in your life, but you can be happy for them. Like they're not here anymore. They're not having to deal with all the stuff that goes along with being a human that is less than ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and truly, once again, like the bigger story, even if you want to take it out of the moment and be meta about it, telling the audience what you have just witnessed is proof that we don't ever really need to be that sad in life.
Yeah. And so,
right?
So we didn't
through this story, this like Bible story that's not a Bible story.
Yeah.
Right? The grace of God is real. And we good.
Yeah. So instead of ending on that happy, jubilant note of the last song, we're ending a little bit more introspective and hopeful, which is
those
also,
are great words.
Also a fun, maybe fun's not the right word, but that's a really interesting and rewarding.
It's more reverent.
Yeah. And
like you said, introspective. I like it.
You kind of it feels more like you had that full journey from the beginning of the show to now to end up back, a little bit more of a feeling of being back in the church service of it all. And, as we kind of use the church service to get into the story, now we're kind of backing out of the story, back to the service alone for the benediction. And that is what a benediction
benediction,
is.
Pulling out your terms.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm a pastor's kid, so I'm very aware. And, that's often what a benediction is. It's something to have you leave on a hopeful note for whatever, the week ahead. So it feels very authentic to that structure of having it within a church service to end that way.
Agreed.
Everybody sing, why don't you sing it? Now, let the weeping cease. Cry, cry, cry no more.
So this ran for 61 performances at the Lunt-Fontanne Theater, which that's a big theater for this show.
That is a big space. My gosh.
I couldn't find, I get the feeling that this was a limited run, like a standard limited run, not that it closed after 61 performances, but I couldn't really find anything to corroborate that.
Mm-hmm.
But most things I saw about it weren't talking about it as like a flop that it, it closed after only 61 performances. It was more like, yeah, it closed, it had a brief run on Broadway. And so I think it was intentionally limited. And the music was pretty well praised at the time. Frank Rich was very up on the music. He didn't like the book scenes as much, but I think...
But they're unusual enough. You're like, well,
yeah.
if it's not your flavor, then fine. But you have to admit it's pretty inventive.
Yeah. And like I said before, it really feels like this mashup of a Greek tragedy and a Pentecostal church service should not work, but it really does. We've kind of talked throughout about all the ways that the parallels line up, and it's not even a stretch to do this because they naturally fall together. And it's very unexpected to have this all work.
Agreed.
Any other
good stuff?
Any other closing thoughts before we get into the scoring?
Here's what I'll say about this show that I've never seen in person, but I welcome it. I think that there's something to be said for creating time to not be preached at. And what's funny is that this show, which is essentially a sermon, feels less preachy than a lot of musicals I can think of.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that is, once again, speaks to the intention of it. So I really invite you, like any listeners out there, to maybe just take a random hour and a half one day and put this album on and let it wash over you. I keep saying that. And just like pay attention to how you feel or what thoughts come your way. And it doesn't have to be your most favorite musical ever. It doesn't even crack the top 10 for me. But there is space for creating space for this type of theatrical musical experience that I think is beneficial to everyone, regardless of if you're religious or not.
Yeah. And don't be put off by the album cover. We'll get to this with the scoring, but...
You didn't like it?
Oh,
it reminds me... Okay, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it when we get to that part of the scoring. But it is much better than the album cover. If you don't like the album cover, don't let that put you off.
I love it.
All right, so into the scoring we go.
Okay.
So we'll start with composition. For
Sure.
music, out of 15 points,
Yeah.
what would you give it?
I gave it a 10.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went with 11. It very much serves what it needs to do, but it's not breaking new ground. It's not crazy, unexpected stuff. But I think it's effective.
This is a hard scoring, my man. This is difficult stuff because what am I comparing it to? Rodgers and Hammerstein? It's not Rodgers and Hammerstein. So take all of these numbers with a grain of salt. It's just what I was feeling at the time. And I could probably change my mind tomorrow.
Absolutely. For lyrics out of 15, what would you give it?
I still gave it a 10.
Okay. I'd initially gone with, I think, like 10 or 11. And then as I was doing my last pass through, I upped it to a 12. Because while the lyrics are very simple, they're never groan-inducing, unlike other shows. And
yes, no groans.
And the fact that
here.
They can work on multiple levels is impressive.
100%. 100%. I also question if there's that much riffing going on, then how important are the lyrics actually? That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of here's your base, make sure you cover this, and then whatever else you want to do is...
Yeah, and if they understand it or don't, it's fine.
Yeah. For performance, technical performance of everybody together, what would you give this out of 15?
Full 15, baby.
Okay.
I have no notes. These people are incredible, and you'll never hear anybody sound like this on a Broadway cast album.
Yeah, that's true. I went with 13. The vocal quality of the Blind Boys from Alabama, especially the lead singer, that's not the point of it. It is not meant to be a perfect, beautiful, glorious sound. It's supposed to be soulful and meaningful.
Yeah.
So
it wouldn't hit
be a
the same way.
disservice. Yeah. But it's not technically the most proficient of voices.
I hear what you're saying.
Which is it's tough because you kind of have the balance of those two that a lot of times having the perfect sound would be a detriment to the character, or in this case to the overall feel.
Well, to Oedipus himself, can you imagine if someone came out after having slept with their mom, killing their dad, and being blinded, and then had a clear as a bell voice?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, does not at all. For voice acting, out of 10 points, this is tough for a show like this to define exactly what to use for your criteria to score, but what are you going to give it?
I gave it a 5 because I really don't care much about the story when listening to the album.
Yeah, I think 5 is a good number for me as well. We're not getting a lot of character, which is mostly because the show is not written to have character. That they're more archetypes and
Commentators
people
even.
to be to have the message get through rather than.
Did we
a
even
story.
discuss the idea that like Greek choruses are throughout all of these plays, and so who better than a gospel choir? Okay, this is one thing that we didn't. Digression number 4. This is one thing that we didn't discuss, which is there are so many musicals with the obligatory gospel number.
Mm-hmm.
So Down Your Rock in the Boat. Even Heathers has a gospel number,
Yeah.
right? But there aren't many, if any, shows with a full gospel score. Right?
Yeah.
And so the really cool thing about this show, in being inspired by Greek choruses, is that they have used a full gospel score to do something other than just be a novelty.
Yeah, it
And
definitely
that's
serves
really
a
cool.
purpose. Yeah, it is. I can understand why there aren't more gospel scores because it would be tough to stay true to a gospel sound and
No, once again,
but-
you have to have a show that doesn't have much of a plot, which this play really doesn't.
Mhm.
Like it's not Sweeney Todd. The plot points are pretty spaced out in general, and then you can't really depend on everybody being entirely audible.
Yeah, it's a very good point. But you can still, there's still so much there with a different kind of storytelling that you're not, like you said, it's not Sweeney Todd. It's not about getting that, oh, I didn't see that twist at the end. It's about
Exactly.
the feelings and the overall message as we go along. And that is a great thing to keep in mind when approaching a show like this, that it's not going to do something that it's not trying to do. Go
Which
figure.
then brings us to
Yes. So narrative with the storytelling, how much does this feel like a musical theater album versus a random collection of songs together?
go ahead. It feels more like a collection of songs, but not in an Andrew Lloyd Webber sort of way. So I kind of don't I don't entirely know how to rate it.
Yeah, I think it kind of falls right in the middle for me, like going back and forth on like 7 or 8, because each one is a standalone song that does not need the rest of it to make sense or to be fulfilling on its own. They all sound kind of like they're just separate songs, but they are all largely, it is cohesive, it is purposeful. It's not
Part of the
a
whole.
jukebox musical. It's intentionally bringing these songs in to have that dual layer. And I guess especially watching it and seeing how the music factors into the show as a whole, I understand what they're going for.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of how this compares to a jukebox musical, where the joke is how do you fit the song into the story?
Yeah. Or how do you manipulate your story to make the song passable?
Make sense or justified.
Yeah. It's like
I don't
that's
feel that way about
that's at the
this.
one end versus
Mhm.
something where every single song is absolutely part of the narrative and there's no question that this is a musical
Born
theater
out of
album.
character even.
Yeah.
Like I don't think this is really born out of character.
Yeah, so that's why it's not lower for me because it's not a jukebox show, but it's not higher because it's not.
Yeah.
Like you
I
said,
think
you could
7
just
I think
listen to
7 or
this.
8 is great.
Yeah, you could just let it wash over you and not realize it's an album of theater at all, which is the biggest downside for this score. But if you're looking for it to make sense together, you can pull it together a little bit. So, which do you want to go with, 7 or 8?
I think I'm going to go 7.
All right. And then for completeness, out of 10 points, how much do you understand what the show is? How much of the show does it give you to feel like you got the experience of the show?
5.
5?
Mhm.
All right. I went with 3.
And I mean that because the album is successful, but I think the stage, especially you telling me about a piano sinking down for the death, like no, there's no way to capture that kind of theatricality on this album. So I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, and for this, like
I don't hold it against them, but it
Oh,
still
no.
affects the score. You know,
like a 10 is a sung through show where you get literally the whole plot. There's nothing missing at all. So I went with 3 because
okay.
we're getting
that's
a
fair.
little
It's
bit here
fair.
and there, but there's musical bits that aren't included, and a lot of the parts that make more sense are in the book scenes in between. So,
Fair enough.
and then into our kind of other categories, uniqueness
Yes.
out of 10 points. What is your
I
score?
gave her a 10
Yeah.
because
This
once
is-
again, tell me another score that's like this.
Yep. This is absolutely not like anything else that's out there, that's part of, especially this and Serafina, why I added this category this season. because
Like they deserve some
it's-
points for this.
because it's not fair to compare them entirely to other shows that they're not trying to be. And
Great.
I think they should get credit for doing something different because there's way too much of same old on Broadway. Safe.
Sigh. Mm-hmm.
So then audio quality out of 5 points, and this is more start at 5 and take deductions for anything you have issues with.
Fair.
And
look.
this is
I was
this might be our first live album to try to work into this, which complicates things.
interesting.
Because
Okay.
you're gonna have certain limitations with that, but it's also about the listening experience at the other end, not just how well they did, but how effective was it?
I did not think twice about this category. I immediately gave it a 5 because I could not believe it is from this decade.
Yeah.
I thought if you had told me that this show or this cast album is from this century, like post 2000s, I would have believed you
yeah.
easily. I can't
Yeah.
think of another cast album from the 80s. So granted, it is contextual, but for me, it gets a 5.
Okay. I took 1 point off for having difficulty understanding the choir. Again, I don't know if they could have done better in a live setting.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
But-
That's how it's going to be for all gospel choirs. But
Yeah. But for me, I don't want it to be as muddy. So I'm not holding it against them, but I am taking off 1 point.
I don't know if you've ever heard, speaking of my tabernacle choir, if you've ever heard them sing gospel music, but it is hilarious.
It's
we
it's very rigid, very straight.
Yeah. Oh dear Lord. The Christmas at Christmas time, they do this free concert in downtown Salt Lake City, and always have an incredible Broadway person. They had when I was a dancer in it once, and it
I
was
love
the
that.
guest was Audra McDonald.
Ooh.
So Queen Audra was there, and she's saying like "Sweet little Jesus boy," and so they're like trying to sing back up to her, and it was beautiful, but like in no way is it true gospel. However, they've also had Sutton Foster, Kelly O'Hara, Santino Fontana. Who else? Megan Hilty. Like everybody has done this concert. It's like the little best kept secret because they always make an album. So
yeah.
if you're interested in hearing Broadway people sing Christmas music with the Tabernacle Choir in Salt Lake City, guess what? It's on Spotify. You just have to find it. Yeah,
I'll have to go look for that this holiday season.
absolutely.
And then our last score for the artwork out of 5 points. What is your score?
Okay, for artwork, is this going to be the thing that divides us forever, and we'll
It
never
might
be able
be.
to? Okay, so here's the thing. I was basing it off of some of your criteria, which is if I saw this in the store, would I know what it is, and would I be interested in buying it? My answers are yes, because it reminds me of the artwork for the gospel version of Handel's Messiah.
Okay.
Did you ever see that?
No, I don't think so.
It's absolutely bananas. Like all the melismas are turned into gospel riffs. It's really
Ooh.
fun.
That does sound
But
fun.
it has that weird squiggly font, just like this one. And so if I saw this album cover, I'd be like, oh, I know exactly what this is. It's gospel music done in a classical way. So I gave it a high point. I gave it a 4
Okay.
because I would know what it was and I would buy it.
All right, that's fair. I went with a 1 because the overall impression being tan and brown is instantly off-putting to me, and it does not tell me what the story is.
Alex does not like neutrals.
So I am not neutral at all. There was a 1984 studio album that they did before after the Brooklyn production. They were like, we should record this, and so they did that. Have you seen that album cover?
Is it white?
No.
Okay.
It is this.
Oh, wow.
It
Very
is-
Fantasia almost.
Yes, it is very fantastical. It is blues and greens, and this is the backdrop on the stage for the show.
Well, there you go.
And I think this, again, literally, it's going to tell you what you're going to see because it is the backdrop. I like this logo, this kind of font better. Because kind of like they're made out of rocks, gives you that Greek play kind of vibe.
I buy that.
And so this I would be instantly drawn to versus
Much more than
the Philadelphia cast. Yeah, not as much.
I'm pulling it up again so I can stare at it.
So that brings us to, for me, a score of 66, for you 71. So an average of 68.5.
Not bad.
Not
Wow,
bad.
you did that math quickly, my friend. Well done.
I made a spreadsheet to calculate it for me.
Google or Excel?
Excel.
Wow. See, now that is revealing to me.
Yeah. That
You got
about me
some
as a
training.
person. I'm an Excel fan for sure.
I love it.
Well,
Yeah. Okay, but look, the pink. You don't like the pink
I
next to the golds?
well, that's not how.
That's kind of
That's how
fun.
Spotify puts the pink behind it. The pink is very
Yeah.
minimal in the. Like I do like that it picks up on the pink to have the background behind it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the predominant color of the album itself to me.
Yeah, no, I get you. And look,
It's that orangey.
the word gospel is in black and then blends into the black at the background, which, I mean, is this racial profiling? I don't know. Is this actually offensive? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and like there's no cutout in the middle of the O's.
I hear you. I still know what it's going for.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Some of the colors are wrong.
Oh,
It's
well.
okay. It's okay.
It's all right.
There were far worse choices in the 80s.
Oh boy, yeah. There's even a worse one this season. So,
Wait, which one is it? Can
well,
you tell me?
it's Late Night Comic. I think is worse.
Oh, okay. So apparently this was the stinker of the season for you, Late Night Comic, which I don't know.
Yeah,
Look, musical theater's hard. What can I tell you?
it is hard, but so much fun, especially for
is.
us to talk about.
Amen to that. So many amens. We're
Yes.
Amen Corner. Another musical. Shout out Jarrell Henderson. I didn't know about that one. Another like 1980s black musical, Amen Corner.
Yeah, I think that was 85.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, but I do know of it at least a little bit. But
Good stuff.
Jeff, thank you so much. This has been super fun.
Alex, thank you for
it's
creating
wonderful.
space for us to talk way more about the Gospel of Colonus than maybe anyone has on
It's entirely
certainly
possible.
in the podcast
Yeah.
world.
Well, if people want to stay in touch with you, obviously they can follow a musical theater podcast wherever they get their podcasts. But how else would be a good way for them to stay in touch with you?
We also are on social media. Follow at A Musical Podcast.
Excellent. And you can follow me on Instagram at Little Things We Hear Together, or you can email littlethingsweheartogether@gmail.com. Please subscribe, rate, review. That's very helpful to get the word out there. The last full true cast album of the season will be next week with the 1986 original London cast album for The Phantom of the Opera. So
Man, legendary.
you want to check back for that one
I'm
for
jealous
sure.
of whoever gets to discuss the orchestrations because they slap hard.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Alex. Have a great one.
You too.
Now let the weeping cease. Let no one mourn again. These things are in the hands of God.